Guys, good Friday morning. My name is Jerry Miller, and welcome to Real Talk, an insider's guide to real estate, life, and the pursuit of happiness. We are live in Charlottesville, across the Commonwealth, the country, and the world on the I Love Seville network, and we're presented by Yes Realty Partners. Say it loud, say it proud. Yes Realty Partners and Keller Williams Alliance. Today's program, we are so jazzed and pumped for Sean Tubbs, just an all-around A-plus guy. Neil Williamson and Keith Smith are in the house. These shows, backed with the foundation of, I think I'm going to date you guys a little bit here, a generation of content in the library for these two guys, Neil Williamson and Sean Tubbs, are just dynamite. I mean, these guys know the business and the communities inside and out. Judah Wickhauer, we have to give some applause and some accolades and some props. He's our director, our compass. If you could go to the foreshot and welcome a true cast of characters. Keith Smith, Neil Williamson, and Sean Tubbs on the program. Look at that smile, Sean Tubbs. I love when you do stuff like this. Look at the screen again. Can you do that again, Sean Tubbs? Good morning, everyone. How's everyone doing?
Can you spell ham?
Sean's great in this.
P-O-R-K.
P-O-R-K. Oh, that's a reference to some budgeting stuff.
Hey, that's what I do.
There you go.
Hello, everybody.
Why don't we do this? Sean, you just got a newsletter out.
Yes, I did. Sorry, I'm trying to promote the show before we start.
He's multitasking.
Okay, I put that away there. Yes, I did. Just got out.
Talk to us about some highlights in the newsletter. Then Neil Williamson, we're going to get you in the mix here as well.
This has been a very busy week for City Council. Lots of discussions about tax rates and what other spending that might be coming forward. Lots of discussions about rezonings and whether or not we have the infrastructure for many more people who will be coming to Charlottesville in our near future.
It's budget season, gentlemen, where we truly see the rubber meeting the road and how leadership in the city and in the county and counties, what is really important to them.
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about this for quite some time on Real Talk, and Ned Galloway chimed in, and I'm sure Neil will support that. If you really want to know what your jurisdiction is really caring about and really wants to do, it's budget season. Take a look at what's in the budgets, take a look at how your elected officials are having conversations about particular line items in the budget, and you know, that's pretty much where their heart's going to be. You know, what's the old thing? Follow the money. So if you follow the money, you know, that's kind of where you're going to see your county or your jurisdiction moving along in the next 12 months.
Well said. Sir Neil Williamson, what has tickled your fancy so far this budget season?
Well, I've been fascinated by the choices and decisions that are being made and being discussed. In any locality's budget, the largest expenditure is K-12 education in Virginia. That's just the manner in which that it comes forward. The discussion of significant capital expenditures for Charlottesville K-12 and educational programs is important and needs to be vetted by the community. It has yet to be seen whether the city manager, who thinks maybe a go or slow approach, versus many who spoke to council wanting to move forward rapidly. This is on top of an additional investment in affordable housing. So it is, the thing is, if everything's a priority, nothing's a priority.
Well said. John Blair, hello. Say hello to our friend, JB. Watching in Stanton. We love you, John Blair.
Hi, John Blair.
He knows I'm a fan of his, and I love seeing him around town, John. All right, why don't we highlight, and I'll get out of your way, fellas, the consultant city manager, as Neil has indicated. So let's move slow and cautious and conservative with our finances. That is contrary to promises that were made last year. Granted, the General Assembly dynamic and makeup is not what we thought or expected it to be.
So is the City Council, a little bit different.
City Council's a little bit different as well. So we have a little bit of financial friction in the city, if you may. Sean Tubbs, anywhere you want to go here?
Well, I think that you just mentioned something. I think that this time last year, there was at least a sense that the General Assembly would pass a bill that would allow the city to institute a 1-cent tax increase. Danville just did this, and to put it towards their school improvement projects. The General Assembly changed hands last year, and the Republicans have a very different approach to the use of sales tax in that kind of situation. So that is off the table. It's likely off the table until at least 2024, depending on whether or not there's a House of Delegates race. We don't have to get into that, but that's a possibility, slim. But that's really the question. Who is to pay the tab for these very expensive schools? Now, another thing to realize is that between now, there's a special session in the General Assembly on April 4th. Depending on how the House and the Senate bill come together with school construction costs, there's still some other variables that might be in the mix, but of course, the question before council is what can it control? And to what level. We could have as much as probably a 7-cent tax increase for this year is probably the highest it might go, at least according to scenarios that were presented to council on Monday.
So
That's on top of the assessment increase too.
and on top of inflation?
Yes.
And on top of the personal property taxes.
And on top of Old Smoky, all covered with cheese.
Lee Vogler, speaking of Danville, get out of your way. Lee Vogler, 3-term Danville City Councilor, will join us on the I Love Seville show at 12:30 to talk about this, along with one of my favorite topics, an acronym that I've certainly started, and Sean has as well. DORA, a designated outdoor refreshment area.
When he says Dora, I kind of go to this whole.
Use the map, Dora.
Not Dora the Explorer.
So do they have a map, Neil, or not?
Not yet. There's
Not
no
yet.
map yet, but there will be. There has to be per code.
So exactly right. So why don't you take a deeper dive into that?
Well, DORA, which stands for Designated Outdoor Refreshment Area, is a relatively new concept that basically is an old concept of a beer garden or a wine garden that is defined and controlled, but it can encompass several city blocks. We heard Stuart Munson speak of this at the Albemarle County EDA last week, and how successful it had been for them. They basically took their downtown and made it entirely a DORA for a 12-hour event, and it was very successful. The question of Jerry's favorite word of incrementalism and incremental income, I'm not certain how much incremental income just the DORA brings in, but the idea of a DORA and thinking about how it could be used and the offshoots of perhaps a DORA associated with a performance at the pavilion could generate hotel stays, lodging, restaurant tax revenue. All of those are generally referred to as incremental increases in income.
Hey, Neil Williamson, if you were
Look at that.
sitting next to me, I would give you a fist bump. I want to give the man a bear hug right now, Keith Smith. I see the 3-term city councilor watching the program from Danville as we speak. Keith Smith, jump in here.
So I'm going to take it. I'm going to, for the sake of a talk show, to use Jerry's famous term that he's coined. Why do you think they oppose this? Why do you think, Neil, that the city, why not necessarily oppose this? Why do they have concerns about implementing it? What's the downside from their perspective?
Well, think of the possibilities of, if you think of events that are outdoor events, wine festivals and other festivals, Floyd Fest is a good example. Where is it too much? Where is it that it becomes what Foxfield was in the 90s?
Oh, yeah.
And that might not be what Charlottesville wants to do. So the question becomes, okay, how do you control it? The C in ABC stands for control. How do you keep it in the way that you want it to be rather than the way that it could become? Because you have to remember, I have an interesting conversation with folks. People say, well, they're using a loophole to do this. No, it's the law.
Right.
It's not a loophole, it's the law. So when you draw up rules, you have to draw them up in the way that the bad actor can't use them to promote something that you don't want to have happen.
And then
dude.
when the bad actor, never get in the way of a sound effect. Oop, I just did. And then when the bad actor happens, you got to enforce it, right? You've got to have so look, to get out there, I'm in favor of this. Always have been in favor.
You have been.
Have been in
Yeah.
favor. I just don't want folks to think I'm throwing out what's the downside, to think that I'm not, because I am. But I just want to look at the flip side of it. Sean, you're on the downtown mall quite often, doing a little karaoke.
He's Mr. Downtown, if you may.
Not really. maybe in the past, but no, I think it's an interesting question. I've actually not been to one, but of course, we do have events like Fridays After 5 that are a little bit different, that where there is a license. I understand that the Tom Tom Festival coming up is doing something that is not this designated outdoor refreshment area, but is a
I talked to Paul last night about this.
Yeah.
Paul Byer.
So that's going forward. So I think that'll kind of be an interesting test to see how that works. And then, of course, council, I believe, would have to pass some sort of an ordinance, although that's not quite what Albemarle County said last week. So I'm a little uncertain about that at this point. But, I think, there are some pretty interesting social issues about that, of course. And, of course, those will all be seen. But I do think that Tom Tom, what's the date on that? The weekend of the
I think
April
it's
20th,
I'll find out for you. So I ran into, I ran into Paul Byer last night, the founder of the Tom Tom Festival, playing a little squash. And I said, Paul, I hope the Dora goes off extremely well. And he says, it will. We have this planned and organized. He also indicated to me that this got approval during the pandemic, signed off by the chief, and then she recanted approval.
Yeah.
So it was given the green light, and then she said, no, we're not going to do that.
So for those who have ever attended Tom Tom, they're always put off.
Oh, he does a hell of a job.
Excellent
Yeah.
job. I've actually did a couple of speaking on affordable housing, go figure, and at Tom Tom's, and it goes off really well. But I think as far as a big picture, folks, I understand the social impact of it, and we need to be very considerate of that when the decisions are made on the process. But we're at a point right now where we're talking about.
Well, we should identify what we're concerned are the social issues here. I mean, you
Want to tackle that, Sean?
I can be direct if you want me to.
I mean, I think a lot of it is that there are people who are possibly people who don't have homes, who might be out drinking, and they might be escorted off of the mall for doing that same activity. I think that's very much what the previous council had said. It hasn't come up to council this time around, so that's another thing to keep in mind too. The question hasn't been raised directly to council, that they've got some other things to do at the moment. But of course, this comes at a time when we also have a lot of discussion about the changing of policing as well. The idea of responding to situations a little differently with the city is not quite as far ahead with this community response team. Albemarle County is doing something like that. So there's a lot of different things playing in here, and I think a lot of concern about about these designated outdoor I keep wanting to say recreation areas, but is how does this fit into those bigger pictures, and is there an equity concern?
So I'm surely sympathetic to that, but this also needs to be looked at somewhat as a business scenario, right? I mean, we just had a conversation. We're probably not going to get to 10 cents, probably going to be somewhere between 2 and 7. They're taking items off the capital improvement plan, right, Neil? I believe that's what they're doing on that end of it. We don't quite know where the budget's going to land yet at this point. So any opportunity to bolster that budget, at least maybe this is too much thinking like a business guy, but that's probably not a bad thing as long as the rules and procedures that are connected to it come together on that. Is that making any sense, Neil? Or I can see that brain turning a little bit.
It makes some sense, but remember, government is not a business.
Yeah, I get that.
That's the hardest part. There are significant elements of government that make no sense for a business point of view.
Yeah.
And it is important to consider revenue, but it's also important to consider the issues that Sean raises about equity and how it relates for the entire community, rather than just the moneyed folks that can get into the Dora.
But I would say also, too, on the Dora, but let's say this, though. Let's be realistic. The downtown mall is going to have no trouble attracting people to it this summer because
Period.
It is. So I think that in this discussion, what I was really interested in the Albemarle section was what new areas could get new eyes and new fresh looks through something like this. Places like Stonefield, places like Crozet, for instance.
More in Scottsville.
Or in Scottsville, or let's say in one of the shopping centers. There's lots of, these are the ones, and hopefully we can talk about one of those shopping centers later. So those, I think, are some of the questions, and I think from my perspective, I'm less interested.
I got the look across the table on
Boy,
that one.
that was a tease. In our business, that's called a tease.
But I'm
Or
less
isn't it
interested.
called a segue? That could be a segue.
I mean, I think that's more of a tease.
Those things make me dizzy. I just fall right off.
He's talking about the
God.
Yeah, I had to do
I
it.
love Sean so much.
But so I'm more interested in that conversation from the regional
You know
perspective
what?
and less about just Charlottesville.
I'd pay money to see him on a segue.
I think
No, you wouldn't.
I think he would do it well. I love Sean Tubbs. So what are you saying here? You're saying, are you more interested in the dynamic of who's first to market with it and how they could potentially compete against each other?
Oh, no, I don't see competition at all.
Yeah,
I
no.
see new things for new people to do in this community.
Yeah.
One thing we could use more of is more people traveling to Scottsville,
Yeah.
more people traveling, say, to Gordonsville, perhaps,
I'll
where
give you
some
a
of
prime,
us might
a
have
prime
interest.
example. My county, Fluvanna County, Pleasant Grove,
It's 1,000 acres.
1,000 acres, never used.
Yeah.
I run there every weekend. We walk the dog there every weekend, and generally I'm on 1,000 acres with a half a dozen people. Why is that not out there in Fluvanna County? Got
But I
plenty
think
of room for it.
that's probably because a lot of people don't know about it yet. And I think that
hard
as
to
we
miss.
start thinking of, of that, I'm more interested in the region than any,
Sure.
this is just me, is, in what I'm doing, than any one component. I'm interested to see how they fit together.
You can, Liz Sarami just said, I can confirm you are here, Sean Tubbs. You put that on your Facebook page.
Oh, good,
Am I
good.
here?
All right, good.
She's
I brought
confirming
people
you
in.
are here.
Thank you, and I hope that you find Rick Springfield at some point in your day today.
Mark Meckel Downey.
Rick Springfield,
is
as
giving
in
you
the
props.
singer Rick Springfield?
Yeah.
What a great reference there.
Yeah.
So let's,
Well, she'll get it.
1980s, wow.
let's do this.
I get
General
it.
Hospital.
I get it. I
The
get it.
host is trying to ring us back into the
Ring us
topic.
back in. Ring
The
us
host
back
is
in.
trying
Oh,
to ring
no,
us
no,
back
no.
in.
We're
There's
doing
a topic?
1980s, guy.
Okay. So Neil, why? Before we get off Dora, why do we not think the Dora has gained any traction in Charlottesville, or has it gained traction? Why hasn't it? If it has not,
It's a new idea. It's a little bit different. You've seen similar concepts when you think of other beer festivals and wine festivals, but not in a standing basis. So you have restaurateurs that have a little bit of hesitation because, wait a minute, you are going to be coming into or to my door, maybe not into my premise, with a beer from somewhere else. And that meant I didn't sell you that beer, but I've got to deal with the garbage, the red Solo cup. I've got to deal with what you need, and you may or may not be spending as much time in my place because you're trying to do the slog to get through.
So-
And I think that's one of the reasons that you see some hesitancy. Bigger hesitancy is on the previous council was, I believe the previous council had stronger, that's not the way to put it, more,
prioritize equity more.
yeah, but this council prioritizes equity. I want to say it was more vigilant or vigilante toward equity issues than the current council is.
I think that's right.
So their eye was on a different ball than what this current council is. But so Neil, I've been doing this for 3 decades. You guys have been doing it just as long. So a concept like this, and I'm sitting on the city council, and I'm a council member. Who do I rely on to give me information on this? Who?
Economic Development Office, right?
You would be
Staff.
You would be talking to staff and voters.
Got it. So
Taxpayers.
So my theory on why this has not floated up to the top is somewhat what Sean was alluded to, and I believe Neil also, you did the same thing. Their cup is flowing at the
Yeah.
moment. They have so many other issues that they're trying to get their brain around. And oh, by the way, I don't think they're up to full staff. I think they're starting to increase it a little bit. But so they're short-staffed, overworked. And, this just hasn't risen up to the top. I think if I was sitting on the city council, I'd kind of let some of these other jurisdictions work out some of the issues, work on the big issues
Well,
that I got.
And I think Sean's point of this summer, you're going to see
Yeah.
enough people on the downtown mall that it's not where it was, even 15 years ago when you could roll a bowling ball and not hit anybody. So it's in a different place.
We'll talk about that. A lot of people don't remember. I remember in 1987, half of it was boarded up.
It was, and now you have vibrancy. You really do have a jewel. It really is a jewel, and I think a lot of credit goes to the flexibility of some of the owners, and including folks making huge investments transforming space. When you look at the Code Building, which was the ice park, which you may long lament the loss of the ice park, but the code building is going to be bringing significant bodies down to the downtown mall where they will be doing, despite being techies and being Zoom all the time, they will be coming down for meetings, and they will be eating on the downtown mall, and they will be parking in the
It's
garages.
forever changed. We highlight this all the time. The Apex building, come on, help me out, Jerry. The Co-Construct building, right? On
323.
Thank you.
Yeah,
323
323.
on that end of it. I mean, we've been highlighting this on the show forever, just from a real estate perspective. And at some point, I want to get to some new numbers that came out this morning that I was pretty excited about. But I think you'll see this coming around later on this year. I think they've got other priorities they're trying to tackle.
And I think we need to recognize that the biggest challenge that I see Charlottesville facing right now is you have an elected city council that by Virginia code has no taxing authority.
Yeah.
And then you have an elected city council versus elected school board. The school board becomes an advocate for spending that they don't control.
Extremely well said. Lee Vogler, topics we will talk with you. We appreciate you watching the show here. I think we should emphasize the timing, and Sean Tubbs, jump in on this. Neil, I'm curious of your take, of the Friends of Seville creation, a nonprofit that was coincidentally launched at the same time that a DORA became a reality, where ABC license are being given to nonprofits to actualize or execute DORAs. Now, it is important to realize and emphasize that the DBAC, the Downtown Business Association, crumbled, so it was important for a new association to rise from the ashes as the voice of downtown.
So how many in the new organization is from the old individuals?
There's quite a bit.
Yeah,
there's
that's what
quite a
I
bit, and that number is expanding every day.
Yeah.
The difference is the Friends of Seville, and Sean, I want your take on this. Friends of Seville is being led by property owners, as opposed to the DBAC was previously spearheaded by businesses that were tenants of property owners. Anywhere you want to go on Friends of Seville, Sean?
They're ambitious, but of course, I think it's going to be interesting to see how they go. They have a lot of ambitions that were at one point in a staff report, and then they disappeared, about doing a lot of social issues as well and working with the fire department. I'm curious to see when that comes back to life. I think it's so far they at least have done something. Of course, they wrapped up a building that's been sitting there for 13 years, and that's a small symbolic thing, and I think that's what they wanted.
For sure.
But the real thing is
That wasn't that small. That was
can they
30
do
grand
things,
worth of work.
But can
It
they
was
do
an olive
things
branch,
to,
is what he's saying.
Got it.
Yeah. But the real question is, can they manage to secure things for marketing, for all sorts of things for downtown? Can they figure out a way? It hasn't come up yet, but the real question is going to be in a couple years. If things go back to the way they were pre-pandemic, and there's still going to be a need for parking and how parking works, that's still an unresolved issue for this community. And of course, that's just one issue. Another issue, of course, is what's going to happen if there is another crash, and supporting businesses.
You're talking recession.
Yeah, that have already suffered through 2 years. A lot of businesses did not make it through. Of course, there have been new investments. What was Java is a new vegan restaurant.
Botanical.
The old Downtown Grill is now will be 2 spaces.
Rockfish and the Bebedero.
Rockfish and the Bebedero. Man, that sounds like that's a great name for a punk band, isn't it? Rockfish and the Bebedero.
Wilson Ritchie bought that building.
Yeah, and so I think it's interesting, and but of course
Is Friends of Seville trying to become a business improvement district?
No, I don't think so. I think
You do
the
not
last
think
time,
that is?
no, because the last time that got tried, it failed.
Right.
About 7 years ago.
Spectacularly failed.
Yeah.
Spectacularly failed in such a way that, as with so much reporting from the last 10 years, we all missed the story. I mean, there were stories going behind the stories that haven't been told, and that's what I hope to do in the future.
Folks, for the few folks who do not know what that terminology is, would somebody jump in and actually...
Business improvement district.
Yeah, so Business Improvement District allows, now I'm going to say it first because Neil would say it very differently, and I want to give an unvarnished view to
Sorry.
people. It allows for property owners to be taxed at a special rate that would, the funds...
Additional rate.
Yes, an additional rate.
Yeah.
The
It's a
funds would
super
be-
tax.
Yeah, it's a super tax.
See, that's why I had to say it first.
It's a super tax.
Well, it's a tax that it isn't. It doesn't wear a cape. and it doesn't jump over
And
buildings.
most business owners don't think it's super.
So
I
for
would
instance,
gladly pay the super tax.
However, let's just say this though. So let's say, let's go to different communities. I think we don't do enough of this. Let's see where they have been used. Think about places like Roslyn, where there is a business improvement district, and at a time when nobody was going down there, it was pretty much, it would close up shop at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Roslyn is a section of Arlington County. In order to target the funding for amenities and things, they entered into this business
But Sean,
improvement
who
district.
pays that super tax?
The
But-
businesses pay it, and in
The businesses
reality,
in the
as
district.
someone who worked at
consumer
1525
pays
Wilson
it.
Boulevard in Roslyn, is that there's a metro stop right in the middle
Yeah,
of
that's
Roslyn.
exactly right.
There's also a metro stop right on the outside of Roslyn. And what the government did was recreate a concrete park in the middle of Roslyn, and then property owners made investments in Roslyn. And that is why the differences that occurred in Roslyn.
Well, again, I'm using as an example. I did not, actually, I lived in Arlington, and it was cool. Let's talk about that. Let's say, welcome to Arlington Talk. No. But I think in this case, it's not on the issue, so speculating about it now is kind of beside the point. But the question is, I think it would be a place where, let's say, can I tease it again? Let's say an area like, let's say this is, heck, we're all speculating. Something like the Rio Road area, there's a lot of competing money, or Crozet, if those areas wanted to, but it would take to Neil's point, it would take the property owners wanting to buy into that.
Or sell, which
Or
we're
sell.
seeing on Rio.
Well, no, we're seeing,
We're seeing market conversion. You've lost 3 fast food restaurants. You now have.
it's because nobody's eating fast food anymore like they used to. Those places are out of style.
I don't know.
Really?
But also,
have you seen Chicken Run?
yeah, but that's exactly it.
The
New
cock block.
places, not the
The
same
cock
old
block.
places.
Yeah.
But
I
look
mean,
what
it's
those properties are
ridiculous.
becoming. Now, we're getting a little bit far track, but to your point, the market is doing what the market's saying. The market sees a market for automotive services there. So look
In
what's
our
happening.
walkable community.
Yeah, but that's because there's potentially a mismatch between the planning and that. And of course, you know, these things are all risky. And I think that you're completely right about the property owners would have to pay it. There is no property tax or business improvement district for that. But no, I don't think that Friends of Seaville, to take it back to that, is thinking about that. And if they were to do so, they would need to educate the public
Yeah.
and first the property owners. What happened last time was that there was a brute force attempt to put one in, and a person who was not yet a city councilor went before and asked them to do it. Why, I wonder?
Who
But
was
I'm-
that?
I'm not going.
Was it Dave?
Save it for my book.
Okay. So here, this is important to emphasize. I'll get out of your way on this topic. Friends of Seaville, if a business is going to become a member of Friends of Seaville, they're paying $200 to the nonprofit. It's a $200 pay-to-play fee. Me personally, a business owner in the downtown district and property owner in the downtown district, I would gladly pay, in Neil's words, a super tax if I knew that that money was being allocated to drive brand awareness, a marketing campaign, or betterment of the district.
Yeah, but
Isn't there
but what
already
happened last
a
time?
meals tax to do that?
Well, but that's exactly the point. It failed last time, in part, supporting Neil. It failed last point, in part, because the transparency of what the money would have been used for
That's correct.
was completely and utterly hidden. It would not have gone to the purpose that
Well, when
it
this
would have
came
done.
up on Real Talk last week, that was my concern. Okay, where is it going to? Where's the budget? You know, and to say that I'd be more than happy to contribute to it is one thing, but when your money starts going someplace you don't want it to go, it becomes a little bit
Well, it has to be
different.
clearly defined.
Yeah, well.
Clearly defined where the money's being
Talk
allocated.
about the local government and how that works, Neil.
Well, that would be different, though. With the
It's
business,
it's a tax.
the business improvement district would have, help me understand this, it would have stakeholders within the district determining where the money is allocated.
Possibly, maybe.
Not necessarily,
No,
and there'd be administrative costs.
Yeah.
You'd probably have a FTE to
What's that?
administer it, a full-time employee.
Okay.
Yeah.
And-
Equivalent.
Equivalent, sorry. Equivalent.
Nerds.
Yeah, we are nerds.
So let's talk about what that number is. That's about 150K.
150K for
Yep.
for that.
Yeah.
But the concept is one that really is, why isn't the city doing that now with the money that they have from the meals tax and the lodging tax, which by law they have to be spending on promotion?
That's a great question. Why aren't they?
They are. Although they did hold a funny meeting last month, but the Convention and Visitors Bureau is
You mean the little tent in the bus? You mean that one?
No, this was the Convention and Visitors Bureau held a board meeting that
The clandestine meeting.
that banned the media
Yeah.
from
Well,
attending.
It's, I think, in that case, I think,
How did
as
they
they
do that,
said,
Neil?
it was one of the very first in-person meetings, and there were some snafus. And,
I had to speak from a laptop,
oh, it sounded fun, though.
and then the executive director, who I have a great deal of respect for, had to repeat when I said it might be legal, but it's not right.
Yeah, but I would say in that case, I think that
But that's
they
a public
erred.
meeting, right?
Well, they erred, I think, in making that meeting in person at a time when the public still, and the media, did not expect for them to have a meeting in public.
Well,
But
I-
when they were
In
asked
person.
if media could attend, they were told no.
Which
So-
I think was, is
Illegal, isn't that illegal?
it's
Well,
a
they said
potential,
access was provided
By
via Zoom.
Zoom.
and that's one of the things where I think
But
that's
gentlemen, we're going to
potentially
have
a
to be a
bad thing to
little,
have done.
gentlemen, we're going to have to be a little thoughtful, right? We're in this transition period.
That's what I'm
You guys attend plenty of meetings, so do I. All of my meetings I'm moving forward, which is actually killing my schedule, which means I have to drop off some of this stuff, is back to in-person. You know, everything from CAR, right? Charlottesville Association of Realtors is in person. You know, we just had, which I couldn't attend, and I saw Sean attended, which was a regional housing partnership meeting was
By the
in
way, their
person.
Zoom link didn't work online, and
Really?
Was that yesterday's?
that was yesterday's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's another one. That was an in-person meeting, and I think that it's going to be very clumsy to
That's 'cause I
transition
wasn't there. It
back.
didn't work.
You know, and I think and that's the big issue is
Yeah.
that, you know, we had a very abrupt transition 2 years ago, and now it's going to be just as abrupt. And of course, remember, Albemarle County goes back on April 4th, I think,
April 4th.
to their first in-person meeting in 2 years. Now the question is, am I going to be there? No.
I will be there.
I will not be there.
be there with bells on.
I will be wearing pajamas and eating bonbons.
Which is a
believe
visual
that.
image that is
I do
really
believe
harming
that.
the
Working
community.
from your kitchen table, right?
Working from my kitchen table.
that
there-
overlooks the window. I've seen you
Overlooks the
post it on
window.
Facebook.
Sean, thank you. We got a cape, we got bonbons, we got pajamas.
Well, we're getting it all.
We're getting it
and
all.
we're
Fire today.
and we're karaokeing at the same time. There's a mental picture.
Actually, no,
didn't
I
wanna-
will be I will go there for the first meeting, but just to say hello, and then because I do think that you know the human touch. To go back to the Dora conversation, people want to be out. Many people want to be out and around people, but others do not. And I think there's going to be a lot of people who are still saying we should be staying home when that's not what things seem to be at this point. But not staying at home, but avoiding crowds. Blah blah blah. I had a lot
Wild
of
Bill
coffee.
McChesney just laughed at the bonbon comment. He said, "Put that on air." So let's sidetrack or sidestep Dora, and why don't we talk tax rate? Your prediction for the real estate tax rate increase is
Not being made.
not
I don't-
being made.
I don't take positions on tax rates.
Oh,
how about,
got it,
how
got it,
about
got
a
it, got it,
prediction?
got it.
I don't make
Isn't that the
predictions
same
on
thing?
tax rates.
Okay. So the consultant said 2 cents, right?
Well, I think at this
budget.
point, yeah. Well, he's at 2 cents, but I think
Consultant
that's-
city manager.
I think there's 3 votes for. I think there might be 3 votes for 7 cents, and that's going to be interesting though because.
So the 3 votes for 7 cents, reading between the lines.
I'm
are
not saying who they are.
McGill,
I ain't saying
Payne, and Wade. McGill, Payne, and Wade.
I didn't say that. I
But
didn't say
I
that.
know Shaw well enough to know those are the 3.
But I don't. But I think
Sean,
though that.
Neil and I are sitting there going. "Dun, dun, dun, dun."
But you're going to be looking at. But keep in mind this: you also have an election next year where 3 people are up. So, regardless, this is going to be a huge issue in the next election. But 7 cents, it's I own a property, and I got to tell you, it's like it makes me think: what's my long-term strategy?
But Sean, but don't they? The 7 cents is one thing, and I think it's important to talk about this triangle, right? So you've got the assessments, which have already been done. We're having this whole rate conversation, but it ties back into the budget, right? So where does that budget ends may or may not be net positive for you in cash or negative, right?
Well-
So we got to see what this budget's going to like. That's the reason I keep on bringing out this. Of all these 3 parts of this triangle,
God, I
they're-
love this show.
They're all equal, but that budget, man, that's what people really need to watch.
Well, I think in a lot of ways, that's why I take as much. I mean, I have spent a lot of time. Like, I got up at 3:00 this morning to make sure
I know,
I
I
was
saw
caught up
it.
to date for this program, and so I can get the newsletter out. Because, these are the questions, and you still have, you have a lot of different competing priorities. The big thing is this school reconfiguration and the school board insisting that they will take no less than $75 million.
Yeah,
But who
And
controls giving them the money?
The council does.
the council does, and I think but that's when.
What if the council doesn't give them anything?
Well, the council will give them something, and I think that's where
Yeah.
ultimately you can go to city council meetings and you can pack them as much as possible, but the end verdict will be next year's election. And I think that in between now and then, a lot of different things can happen. You are correct to say that there are some other things that would come. One thing that isn't really being said, it's important for people to know this. Whatever the tax rate is, that's a tax rate for the calendar year.
Yep.
So in other words, if they bump it up to 7 cents, there will be a huge surplus in fiscal year 22, our current year. And I think that sometimes gets lost. What I would love to see is budgeting at this level taught as early as 12 or 13 so people can understand
Thank you.
these basic connections, because
Well, that's what we're trying to do here, Sean, and we've been
because
talking.
you've also got other different competing needs. $200,000 for the Jefferson School African American Heritage Center. You have people pushing for $3 million for Charlottesville area transit.
How about
this year.
raises for people at City Hall?
That is something that, again, that's where the last surplus went to entirely. There was a surplus of $6 million or so for fiscal year 21. All of that went to employee compensation and bonuses. And the thing is, you say, oh gosh, I'm outraged about that. I'm not outraged.
I'm not outraged at all
But
about that.
Nobody showed up to complain or to say anything. That is the important thing. If you don't speak to council, if you don't make your views heard, how are they going to know?
Let's get Neil Williamson in the mix.
I think
mix.
it's critically important, the idea of being informed about the choices and decisions your local governments are making.
Amen.
I will tell you, Sean and I have sat through countless budget hearings, public hearings, where there are none or two speakers.
That's exactly
Yeah.
right.
It is it's boring. It's budget stuff is like watching paint dry.
Not for me.
But the nerds like the stuff.
I love
But
it.
it's important.
I'm cool.
But
I
it's
love it.
critically
It's
important.
important.
I played bass in Bebedero and the Peacocks.
Yep. Well, you'll be strutting tonight with the Sweet 16.
Wait, what was it called? Joe?
The Rockfish.
Rockfish and the
Yeah,
Bebedero. Sorry.
Rockfish.
Okay, I blew that one. Okay,
Yes,
sorry.
you-
Continue.
I
Sorry,
thought it
Neil.
was funny,
But-
though.
All right, let's get off the punk band, guys.
Yeah,
Let's-
the bottom line of all of this is not it's going to be 7 cents, it's going to be 8 cents, it's going to be 10 cents, and your assessment's gone up by this. How much more am I going to pay this year
That's the
than I
point.
paid last year?
Yeah, yeah.
And by the way, do I have that money? And if I don't, what happens?
Well, gentlemen, on
But-
on top of that,
You don't want to get behind on your real estate bills.
well,
The interest on that is significant.
and what's the one authority to come take you home awfully fast?
Yeah.
But let's-
You don't mess
Tax-
around with that,
The
people.
tax man.
But let's keep in mind, it isn't just the property, it isn't just the,
That's
it's
where I
not just
wanted
the
to
real
go
estate
next.
tax.
That's
Another lingering issue is what is council going to do with the personal property tax?
And I believe on the cash out of people's pockets, that's going to be more impactful.
Well, and to be fair, my friend Todd Divers has done a very good job
breaking it
illuminating
down.
this issue.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Todd,
And of course-
we're giving you props. We've given you props for weeks on the show. I feel for what is going to happen to you, Todd, when the personal property tax bills come out, dude. You are going to be, and he has papered the trail
So
by saying this is going to happen.
And
It-
that's
it-
the thing. And so that's, one of the many conversations about this situation is that where is that? Council really hasn't given a clear direction on what they
Well,
want
they
to do.
focus on
And
real estate
That's kind
so
of why
much.
this is so murky. Well,
Well,
that's,
Lloyd has said that he should. We don't want to adjust the rate down for personal
He
property
has said
taxes.
that.
he has said that, but he's just one of five, and that's the thing. I think there are others who, for instance, Councilor Pinkston, who did bring this up. The other ones didn't. The other three didn't really speak to the matter as much that I saw, and I do have to admit I missed a couple minutes of the community budget forum. But that's a big thing. The other one is the meals tax. There is a proposed 0.5% increase on the meals tax, which would be then what, 8.5, I think, or so. Well, it would take it. Well, regardless of what it is, those are the various things. And,
For those who are watching,
but to put on my Neil hat for a second, what also the conversations aren't happening is where can the cuts be made? And
Yeah,
the
there you
financial advisor clearly said that on Monday.
We're going to talk about the spending side rather than just the revenue side?
Well, that's, I think, is the thing. I think that there's a lot of assumptions, and I think that at the end of the day, does the public want to support the amount of funding that has been suggested we're going to do for 10 years? There's 5 elections between now and 10 years from now, and there's going to be lots of different shifting through ends of the hourglass.
And no,
That's the world term.
That's the one.
That's the world.
and no elected body can demand the next elected
That's
body
exactly
spend
right.
the money.
And as Sina McGill said,
That's part of the reason why you don't do these long-term budgets, right?
Well,
Because this-
100%.
This year, and people need to understand that, right? You would think, Jerry and I and the folks that have budgets, we do one-year budgets, five-year budgets, and all this stuff. I can't commit, if I'm a city council or board of supervisor, the next one going down on the road. That's
But
the reason.
you can do projections.
You can do
And
projections, you can-
They regularly do.
And you can
And, I
work on
mean,
policy,
For
right?
Albemarle County's finance department is larger than Fluvanna County's local government.
And they do a lot of projections.
and I think it's all in the name of well, I'm not going to go there because
So-
Neil's
so-
sitting next to me, and I can imagine he would beat me for the next thing I was about to say.
Oh, please say something.
Well, I mean, they're looking out for their bottom line, and what their bottom line is, how do they pay for their organization, which is the word that gets used a lot these days. They do think of themselves as like a business because they have to balance a lot of different things, and of
And
course,
they have to balance their budget.
and they have to balance their budget.
They're required
and
to
that's up
balance
to
their budget.
council. But I think that's what's so interesting about the council. The council is not giving clear direction about what it wants, and to be honest, it really hasn't for the last 4 or 5 years.
So this whole conversation is why this third leg of this triangle is so important, is this budget end of it. And to use the drying paint thing, everybody wants paint in their house. Everybody wants their walls painted. Sometimes you got to watch it dry to get there. And this budget is so important because that's when the numbers start getting moved around. And
But the other part of it, Keith, is what are we doing to grow the pie?
Well, I can tell you what Albemarle County is doing, investing in economic development. And I think that's exactly the thing. They're looking to figure out ways to do that.
Specifically how?
Specifically, there's $5 million from their surplus that's going to economic development funding to match local and state grants for various economic development grants.
so Sean,
for
where are all
instance-
these people going to stay? They're going to come here?
Well-
where are they going to live?
Well, I think though you got to take that up with Virginia because economic development is happening all across Virginia.
Man, I'll tell you what, I've
And I
been
think
involved
it's-
in economic development for
and
3
that's
decades.
exactly it.
And I will tell you, as a
So what are you
former-
alluding to? Where are they going to live?
where they're going to live.
Yeah.
I've been trying to segue into 29 North project,
Well,
but
the
I'm
concept,
quite there yet.
But the concept
think
of
I'm
growing
gonna-
the concept of
trying to
growing the
help you.
pie.
This is our show, right? I'm just double
I
checking.
love these guys.
The
This is great,
concept
though.
of growing the
Just
pie
checking.
includes residential development, and there's a project.
Do I need to
that's-
look up the contract, right? It is our show, right?
There's a.
Just double
I
checking.
didn't sign anything. The project. Did you sign something? The project that was on.
So, Jerry, how you doing, man?
On the paper.
They're doing great.
The project that was discussed on the front page of the paper either today or yesterday was a project that's being floated in Seminole Square.
Yep.
Yeah.
There you go. There's my
It's a-
segue.
I'm working for it.
There you go, buddy. I
And it's a
appreciate
pro-
it.
Great Eastern Management.
Great Eastern Management. It is a by right project.
Yep.
But it's interesting, not to get too deep into the weeds, but they have to get approval from the entrance corridor folks,
Yes.
not the BAR, because they're putting in a public road.
Yes.
352 apartment units, Seminole Square Shopping Center, 23.9 acres of existing shopping center. The former Giant grocery store is what they're referencing. Sean.
So,
Yeah, well, this is the second time this has come forward. The last time it did need a rezoning. It also it was for 500 units approximately. This is at 352. Neil is correct that there's a very small portion that does enable the entrance corridor review. Keep in mind their review is at a very different level than the Planning Commission. I believe that they can't outright deny it. They just need to figure out a way to
so
issue
the
the certificate
developer,
of appropriateness.
so let's put some context to this. So the developer, and as far as I'm concerned, it is an ARB. You can call it what you want. It is an architectural review board.
No. In this case, you can't because there's a separate board of architectural
No,
review.
I understand
It's a very
that,
important
but
distinction.
there's going to be some approval process of what this group wants this to look like. Is that a fair
At this-
statement?
And at the same time, there's also an existing hydraulic small area plan
Correct.
that offers clues and context for how that should look.
And an existing site plan.
And
for
an
a
existing
portion
site
of
plan,
this,
yeah.
So,
property.
gentlemen, how long?
So in
you-
this case, it's very close to coming forward. The question is that there will likely be opposition to this because there's usually that's what a democracy is opposition.
But do they have
And,
any impact on the process moving forward?
They certainly do.
Limited.
In one case, they've
Yeah,
already
limited.
offered. So
They
from-
can slow it down.
well,
but
this
they
is
can't-
where it's supposed
Well,
to happen.
But that's exactly it. This is
they can slow it down, but they can't stop it.
well, they
And
can
l-
slow it
let's
down.
put-
But who wants to slow it down?
Excuse me?
at this point, who wants to
What,
slow it
only,
down?
they just recently had a meeting, wasn't it?
That was a site plan,
Site
that was a
plan.
site
How many-
plan
how many
conference
people-
meeting. And how many members of the public spoke?
2, I believe it was.
One is a planning commissioner, one was a paid advocate.
There you go.
So,
Wasn't
right
even
there,
public.
you know, and that's the thing. That would have been the
Well,
time for people
so
to get to.
gentlemen-
But the process is so obscure, and that's why Town Crier Productions brings you Information Charlottesville and the Charlottesville Community Engagement Newsletter, so you can find out about these things.
But to be
Send,
clear,
hold the time out, excuse me. Send Sean an invoice. Okay, we're good.
but to be clear, the Free Enterprise Forum does not take positions on projects.
Right, I don't
But we
either.
can inform the discussion. And this particular project has, half of the units are one-bedroom units, and half of the units are two-bedroom units. There is a concept of having some retail on the first floor. The
in just one of the buildings,
In
the
one
other
of the
three are all
buildings, yeah.
residential.
But the developer does not have an affordable housing requirement.
That's exactly
But
right.
has put forth that they will provide 5% of the housing at 80% AMI for rental. They've also offered a connection and little piece of a land easement for the trails, and that piece will help the city move forward with connecting that trail to these residents as well as the balance. And this project also is right on a bus line.
Yeah,
Which is, and close to employment centers.
right.
So the concept of
This is a
building-
no-brainer project.
Where do you want to build? Those are the check marks. And Sean and I have been through plenty of these meetings where we say, well, this is what we want. This isn't what we want. But one of the other things to remember about this site is the topography. I don't remember the number of stories, but it is in the bowl down there. So it will not have the same impact on the street as it would be if it was right up on the street.
So put a little context to this. Just came out this morning. CoreLogic nationwide, single-family rents, so we're talking multifamily at this point, has went up 12.6% year over year. So to put a little context to your 80% area median from one bedroom, if you really take the time and do the math, the market rate versus what that 80% AMI for is awfully darn close. There's not a lot of.
What would that rent for?
I'd have to.
About 1,200?
Yeah,
I
about
was going to say
1,200.
1150, so
Yeah.
1200? Yeah.
So if
Approximately.
if you dig into it and you take a look at what the 80% AMI for one or two person and convert it into monthly rent, I don't know the exact number, but it's awfully close to that.
And my question, or my answer to that is, so what?
No, I'm just stating
More
the fact.
housing everywhere for everyone.
And keep in mind that Great Eastern Management Company did get an approval. You know, they went through the rezoning process for a building not that far from here, 1011 East Jefferson Street.
Right.
That was pre 2017, pre a lot of this conversations. They haven't built that yet for various things, because just because they get it approved doesn't mean they won't build it at this time, because I think David Mitchell, who's the principal there, you know, basically said that, like, actually he said kind of half jokingly, he's kind of hoping for a crash so the construction costs can come down.
That wasn't half joking, by the way.
Yeah, but I think- well, I mean, I
so
think-
a lot of things folks don't know. They'll go through the site plan process again, and they can let it sit for 5 years.
They could, but I think they've already been letting it sit, and I think that there is I think they want to move forward
Well,
because
when you have a 12.6% increase in rents, hello. But the reality of it, gentlemen, I think this site plan process is 2 years in the making.
yeah, very much so. I mean, like it very well could be. Now, keep in mind, though, this is my plug to say that the city's process is currently not transparent, so the review process is much harder for us to review.
And super slow.
But the Timmons Group is working on a plan to fix the neighborhood development service process. I am hoping that it allows me to be able to look at, just like I can in Albemarle County, I can look at any plan I want.
Not just he, anyone. can.
Anyone can. And
Is current council going to influence this, or is it going to be the next council?
they won't have any. They won't see it. The only way they would see it.
So it's the next
is-
council when 3 new bodies come?
No, they won't see it.
It's already moving.
Okay,
This
yeah,
is at the
okay.
staff
Yeah,
level.
It's
Got it.
it's by right. Now the question is if anybody can oppose it, because this is Charlottesville. Someone will always try to oppose anything because there's a lot of money in that. And so what will happen is that there might be some discussion about the particular interpretation of the zoning code that allows this much there. I haven't looked into it that much, but it is zoned highway commercial.
And the precedent exists from previous rezonings or previous projects that have moved forward. By right, at 23, units per acre.
So, but I'm just saying that.
So the long and short of it, folks are going to take a look at this. The opposition is going to dig into this, go through all this kind of great stuff. But the bottom line is, it'll get tweaked one way or the other. It's going to stay within the four corners of where it needs to stay. It's going to take about 2 years to happen. It's going to take about a year to year and a half to do the site work.
I think it could happen faster, but do
I
keep
don't
in mind
think so.
this, though. One of the hindrances is that the city is very understaffed in that department. So the 2 years you're saying, yes, but likely, though, there is if we can get a city government that begins to function better than it has, that's a possibility of maybe.
So let's put a
moving
little
faster.
context to that. So,
But you're probably right, 2 years before there's a
But
certificate for
to that
occupancy.
end, Keith, I think where you're headed, the city government, first off, city council in the last 90 days, in my opinion, has kind of started to right the ship.
Oh, no doubt.
Without doubt.
When we had the meeting with the chamber
At code.
at Code, the quote was, "Let's make government boring again."
Yeah.
yeah.
And I love that quote.
Yeah.
But I do believe that the senior leadership the senior staff leadership and the city council are moving toward that goal. And I think that there are some really strong, positive efforts underway. Now, has that reached down to the line, the front lines? No, not completely. But I had an opportunity to, had an issue come up with NDS. I wrote to someone within the department. I got an answer within 12 hours, which in my world is just fine.
Neighborhood Development
Neighborhood
Services.
Development Services, I got an answer about, there was a rumor that there were no inspectors left in NDS. The reality is, there was one inspector left, and he was leaving on Friday.
Brian Haluska put that on Twitter.
Yeah, and the
City planner, right?
right.
Yeah.
The reality is, they have hired a temporary planner, or a temporary inspector in the interim, and they've got the deputy zoning administrator out on inspections, and they're hiring 2 more inspectors. That's a very positive, reasonable, rational answer to a question that was a real question. So I consider that a positive all the way around.
So just to put why I think this is going to take 2 years, it's because I've done this before, right? And so most folks do not know that if you submit a plan or submit something that the city requests for back, and they want to change it, or they don't quite understand it, or they want you to change something, they get a 45-day clock that keeps on kicking in. And every time you hand it back in, they get another 45 days. And this is how they manage
And they,
their
and they sit
workload.
on those comments until day 45
They-
or later.
And this is how because of lack of staff, it's just how they manage their workflow. And it just, I've been trying for 2 years to get a bond released over at Nassau Street. And I can't get it released because every time I try to get it released, there's something else that they need, and the clock starts all over again. And we've been doing 2 years trying to get, I think it was like $14,000 back to the land trust.
Which is travesty.
For us,
that's a lot of money.
For
Well,
us, just to put it in perspective,
You
14.
did build in a flood zone.
No, I did not build in the
You
flood
can
zone.
speak
You build
about
up
this.
high. I'm just
That
giving
is
you-
not in the flood zone. So,
It's
sir, I'm going to push back on you. You were incorrect. Go take a look at the FEMA map. We amended the
Very
FEMA.
passionate about this.
Yeah, I know, but I think that the idea.
Well, I
though,
just
is
want to get
that
it factual,
In
that's
any
all.
particular case, though, it is an area where there is cause for concern, just like any place. Any place, building in
But
any
that's got
place.
nothing-
But Keith's argument holds water. Come on.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, I'm trying to get serious, guys, and it's not working. Oh,
We
well.
can't. I just had a lot of coffee.
Vanessa
You can't expect
Park
me to be
Hill,
serious.
yes. Teach budgeting at a very young age, please.
Mm-hmm.
Bill says this, I see people on around neighborhoods in the Seaville commenting, oh boy, my home is worth more. They see the assessments and figure it's a positive thing, but they don't realize that this impacts their tax amount. Then when their mortgages go up or they get increased tax bill, they wonder how in the heck it happened. And then multiple people are putting in the feed, where are the people that are going to live that are coming here in Charlottesville and Albemarle County?
So-
And the unfortunate aspect, and Keith, I'll throw it to you, the unfortunate aspect is the people that are going to live, that are moving here, are going to buy up the little housing stock that exists and push the folks that have been in this area for an extended period of time further away from the epicenter of employment. That is happening.
Where's the epicenter of employment, though?
I'd say the epicenter of the employment still continues to be the city of Charlottesville.
It's
Yeah,
UVA.
but
Yeah.
there's all
UVA.
sorts of stuff. But like that's the whole point of the whole thing. There's jobs happening in multiple places. There's a lot of jobs on US 29. I believe that someone at this table produced a whole report about how many jobs there were in the US 29 corridor.
Available at the freeenterpriseforum.org/reports.
My
Another
point is-
invoice.
And
Another
donate.
invoice.
Yeah.
Support the man.
My point is that
Support-
there's
support both of
multiple
them. Yeah,
areas of
please.
employment. The area is shifting. You got 500 jobs coming to Augusta County at Amazon. Eventually, you're going to have some major employers who show up at Louisa County in one of the business parks there. Who knows what's going to happen?
So I posted this morning on Facebook. This is the first time I've seen this as long as Jerry and I have been tracking this, and we've been tracking this for quite some time, week over week in the car footprint. We are at 117 new, in other words, actives that came on, 109. I have not seen that.
109 off, 117 active.
Thank you for keeping
Yeah,
me straight.
yeah.
I haven't seen that, so anybody who's chiming in, a real estate agent, if they've seen it in a 7-day window, please let me know, but I haven't. I'm tracking this
That's big time.
every day.
Probably an indication of rates rising.
I think
And
it's
springtime.
It's
Springtime.
It's spring. We
Yeah.
are back to this normal, spring market
Yeah.
and all that stuff. But it's interesting, as you guys were chatting, and I was wondering if we still controlled the show or not,
Show's going great.
Yeah, I'm only teasing.
Engagement is off the charts.
Engagement is off the
Yeah.
charts. Only 16 of them in
Really good
Charlotte. So
Well,
out of,
I just
out
know I
of,
got to look at this camera.
out of 117, only 16 of them in the city of Charlottesville.
Right.
Just to put it in perspective.
And where are there development opportunities that exist?
X
Where do
Park.
they exist?
X Park is the only spot that's left.
There's a couple
One of the
small,
few spots that's left.
I'm not so
of
sure
any
about No, I think
substantial
that's,
size. I would
yeah.
agree
We
with
just
that.
adopted a future land use map that gives drastically more opportunities for building. City Council is poised to rezone
Substantial development.
substantial
Yeah,
development.
substantial development.
By right, for one project on on Valley Road Extended, where by right they could get 6 units, council is poised to allow 28 on 2/3 of an acre.
So, Sean, I'm
that's all
working-
rental, but multiply that across every single property. I think
And it's not all going to happen at once.
it's not all going to happen at once, but it does change the dynamic. But I think that's not been factored in just yet, how much more potential building there is. It's going to take some time for that market to show up. Also, a lawsuit, I don't really see that killing this future land use map, but there is a lawsuit against this thing. But I think that
Yeah, that's not
that
gonna kill it.
one action transformed this community, and we don't know how it's going to work.
Well,
we have some predictions how it's gonna work.
It's transformed the comprehensive plan.
But now-
We're now writing the zoning code that is where the devil is in the details, and that's.
But
that's
even
where-
And a
before
mustache.
that,
I was going to say that, and
And a
Neil,
mustache.
I believe there's a prop bet on the line here.
And there's a mustache on
But
it.
I
even
believe there's a
before
prop
that-
bet.
Hold on a second. There's a mustache, and potentially, because of we're going to have to. I didn't realize you had your goatee on, so we might have to up that bet a little bit, or not. Or
I didn't volunteer that, did I?
You did volunteer that, Keith Smith.
I
Just
surely
holding it
did.
up.
I opened
so
up
the
my-
prop bet, just so everyone knows, what was the over/under? It was June of 2023.
Correct.
Wait, what's
Okay.
the bet on?
Listen to this bet
Zoning
here.
code.
Oh, that's
Zoning
So-
code.
No, I mean, it
June
all
1,
depends on how
2023.
successful the
June
legal.
1, 2023.
2023.
If it's not put into play,
No. Well, put into play is because once the council this is not fair to Neil. Once the council adopts it, it's not going to be put into play for
Well,
a substantial
The
period of time.
enforcement part of it, but it's going to pass council.
Yeah,
And I would
that's-
argue-
June 1,
that's
2023.
that's the milestone.
Smith
But I would argue we're
Yeah,
already-
yeah, yeah.
he shaves his stash on set.
And I've had this since 1985.
I
So
know.
this is a big thing.
And
for
did
me.
you say Neil gets to shave the stash?
No, I did not. I will not allow Neil with anything sharp around my neck.
Okay.
Wise man.
So we're talking, guys, future land use map here, which is a hot topic in this community, a very hot topic. Neil, anything you want to add on the flum?
future land use map.
The future land use
Hate that
map,
acronym.
I am encouraged by some of the other communities. One of the things we don't do enough of is look at other communities and how they grow and what can be done. I think that sometimes we get stuck in what it is. I wrote a piece on the blog yesterday talking about coming to this town while Jerry was still in elementary school as an undergraduate and staying at the Cavalier Inn.
Oh, my parents stayed there when
It
they
was-
visited me at UVA.
And it was it was a nice.
It was a great hotel.
It was great. It was a nice
Yeah.
hotel.
It was the
there any
middle. It
longer.
was the
Not-
middle of the road price point.
Right, not there any longer, and our community changes, and
Yeah.
we become different. Different is hard, and we need to look at where we want to be. Who do we want to be? Are we becoming more inclusive or more exclusive?
Exclusive.
That's
Well,
the question.
so-
And how do you impact that with your zoning code and your comprehensive plan? Where will our children and our children's children live and work? Will they stay in this community?
Buckingham County. That's where they're going to live and work.
I don't think you know. I mean, again, it's like I think you're starting to see more and more and more housing coming on the market. The real question is going to be, does it stay affordable? So, for instance, that Grove Street one that I was just talking about, the whole point of the comprehensive plan is to tie that extra density to the bonus units that you would get. They've already done that. Even without the policy, council is this close to approving that.
You're saying the market is already
No.
adapting?
No.
What
What
he's
are you
saying, and
saying?
I can add
I'm
some
saying in that
context to
case, the development is already responding to the principles of the comprehensive plan and the affordable housing plan without the zoning being in place. The question is going to be, in 10 years, when the affordability period, or even before that, who is going to monitor to make sure that those subsidized units, because let's keep in mind what we're saying here, those are subsidized. That, by, in this case, the developer's leaving some on the table, or is that the phrase? Is that
Yeah,
the phrase?
yeah.
They're going to deliberately charge less than they could get at market. But
So this
is that going to
important.
play off in 10 years? Who knows?
So to put some, so what Sean is saying, and one needs to follow these applications that are going in, and one needs to follow what the city council is doing. What Sean is saying is the city council is kind of adopting projects based already on the comprehensive plan. I just
No
wanna-
doubt.
Right, but the other part of this is you need to look at the projects that have provided affordable housing. What has worked?
Well, we don't know
Well, I
in the
know
city
what's
because there
worked.
isn't a housing coordinator to tell us that.
Well,
Right, well, if you look at the county, what has been the best product for affordable housing in Albemarle County?
Define best, I don't know, but there's
What has provided the most
90
affordable
units
housing?
at 90 units at Brookdale paid through by a synthetic TIF. We'll see how the Treesdale Park was another one. There's
And the synthetic TIF,
yeah.
how that works, so that folks understand, is you've got amount of tax that you pay on the land if it was raw. Then you build an improvement. That improvement has an additional value. What the synthetic TIF does is the property owner pays the full tax on that property with the improvement. They have a performance agreement regarding housing affordability. If they meet the performance agreement, they're rebated the cost of the improvement, the tax placed on the improvement, for a period of time. Most of them are 15 years, and then there's a 5-year taper where you 20% more each year. The reality of that, though, is when I was talking to someone who was involved in this, they said, well, how will it stay affordable? Well, for the first 15 years, think of it as your business. You're paying down on the mortgage. At year 16 through 20, you're going to find a way to refinance that. And you've got a smaller nut to refinance so that you can get that done and keep things affordable. Because it's also layered with what are called LIHTC funds and other leveraged affordability. And those units likely will stay affordable for 30 years or more.
so
That was a good explanation, yeah.
Let's make sure we're talking rental,
Right.
right? We want to make sure everybody understands we're talking rental, we're not talking ownership, ownership on it. And do you know why, gentlemen, that these projects are starting to pick up their tempo right now through the approval process? Do you know why that's going on? Does
Which
anybody-
projects can you be more specific?
Well, let's just talk about the 29 North one. Why is that all of a sudden popped its head up now and moving forward?
There are, without getting into it, every single project has individual things and peccadillos, if you will. In that particular case, they had some lease issues that they had to finally
It's
work out.
also
That
what
was a sandwich
exactly
shop.
Yeah.
Neil just noted, LIHTC. Everybody who's in this space is trying to get their projects done and approved because they know in 2023, their interest rates are going to go through the roof, which is now going to make the projects.
But-
I just literally was on the phone call with a developer talking about that on the way over.
But look at the other things that have produced affordable housing in Albemarle County, for instance.
Keith,
The
Land Trust.
The land trust.
I just signed my 11th contract this morning.
And the land trust and Habitat for Humanity.
Yep.
Have both, and those are for sale products that are different.
They just got $5 million.
Mackenzie Scott.
Yep.
They-
Bezos' ex-wife.
Yep.
And
Bezos.
to me, I think that those have merit, but in each case, there's a investment from the locality. There is a performance agreement that provides teeth to getting it done.
Private sector.
And there's an incentive for the private sector to do it.
Yeah.
Those are the things that are working.
Sure.
I think the affordable housing programs for the localities should focus on those three things rather than trying to, as I said about the watermelon truck, where the guy is losing $2 a melon and he says, I need a bigger truck.
So I'm curious, Sean, at the meeting yesterday, which I could not chair, and thank you for Ned
Which one?
Galloway for doing it, the Regional Housing Partnership.
Wednesday.
That was Wednesday. Say, look at that. I don't
was
even
a
know what
retreat.
day it is. I have been intentionally trying to change the conversation away from affordable housing to housing affordability. I think that it's a better term than affordable housing. But, that being said, as Neil threw a softball my way, I just signed the 11th contract over at Spring Hill Village for the Piedmont-
Congratulations.
Thank you for the community.
Job well done, sir.
It's not congratulations to me. It's
To the land trust.
It's congratulations to a single female teacher with their child, a single mother. Excuse me,
And
that's
and
what I
if
meant
she
to
was
say.
married, would she have qualified?
If she was
Married to another teacher.
If she was married and her partner had a
Yes,
job, she probably would not have qualified.
Well,
What if she was left-handed?
hold it. I'm left-handed. Back off,
You're
buddy.
not left-handed.
I am left-handed. How
Are
many
you left-handed?
years have we?
I just learned something. Are you legitimately left-handed?
Desi and Lucy, come on.
I did not. I
See-
didn't know
see
that.
what I got hold of?
I just learned something.
I love to derail these things.
I am.
Just
You
learned
did not know
something.
I
I
was
did not know
left-handed.
that. Did you know he was
I'm
left-handed?
a little. Oh, now I'm really concerned about our relationship.
I did
Scott.
not know that, Keith. I just learned something about
I
you.
am left-handed.
Okay. I knew about the housing affordability.
Yeah,
Not the left-handed.
I am left-handed.
Keith Southpaw Smith.
I have been I'm actually ambidextrous, but that's a different story. But look, the
You got
reality.
us off track with that comment.
I did.
Okay. Okay.
But I have this conversation, and I'm a little passionate about the Piedmont Community Land Trust because I happen to chair it and put a lot of time into it. But we're on our we already have 10 and 10 going. We're on our 11th contract. The 10 cost us $200,000 to put. And oh, by the way, we're hitting a 50 to 60% area median income. To go back to your question about that, it's household, right? So if they would have, so if they would have had 3, their income would have increased. More than likely, they would not have reached. They would have been qualified.
Above the criteria, the threshold.
Which brings us into this missing middle, which brings us into this workforce, which is why I call it housing affordability, not affordable housing, which is a whole different topic. But we produced and put folks in there, soon to be 11. We've got another 7 to go. Permanently affordable housing and our housing affordability.
Right, and the question becomes one of, the Regional Housing Partnership, prior to that TJPDC, produced a report saying what the housing affordability need was.
Correct.
And I think that need was greater than 17.
Yeah.
So I don't know that we're going to do it in that way, but the question becomes one of how do you make the market by approving projects that increase housing supply, you impact the market. By providing projects that have a tapestry of 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, single-family, duplex, townhouse, that's how you impact the market, and that's what's
Throw a little
envisioned
commercial in there?
in the comprehensive plan.
Yeah.
And how do you pay for the additional services that are required for that additional population, such as sidewalks, and schools are probably, and traffic release. Now, those are
public
just,
safety.
that's why all of these issues are interconnected. You can't just separate one from, you can't separate any of these from the other.
Well, that's what makes it complicated, right? That's what makes it.
Aha, and that's why I write about it.
Well, here's a good topic here. Here's a good topic, and a springboard for another discussion. Albemarle County is considering, this is from Grayson, who watches the show routinely. Albemarle County is considering tempering taxes, and he uses the term broadly. We know, we can talk specifically, where the city of Charlottesville is considering driving momentum behind them. How can Albemarle County do this and the city of Charlottesville cannot? So we should put in perspective what Albemarle County is
Wait,
doing.
which tax?
Albemarle County is, Donna Price was recently on the news about this. Was it the personal property tax rate she was alluding to?
Yeah, that's what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah. So Grayson's saying, why can Albemarle County go about doing this where the city of Charlottesville's thinking nothing but tax.
Well, and no, I think in this case is that the city council is having that conversation. The question is, will they get 3 votes for people who are willing to drop it below $4.20? Councilor Pinkston is suggesting about $3.75, but they are looking for revenue. There's a lot more pressure in the county from citizens and community members who want more spending. So the dynamic is different. You do not have that conversation now. You do to a certain extent, but
You're
it's
saying there's more pressure in the city.
there's
from
more
people who
pressure in the
want more
city
spending.
from
Yeah.
from very organized groups who are pushing for more spending. So that's what the councilors hear.
They are a representative government, and they're representing the folks and what the folks that they hear from want.
Yeah, and it's a combination of Livable Seaville, it's a combination of pro-school group, and we'll throw socialists in that mix right there, that are all very pro-tax and spending right now.
And, and I think that's, again, I think that, but it's also a question of dynamics. In the county, the supervisors tend to be a little bit more deferential to staff recommendations. So if the staff said, we recommend doing this because we think it's a really good idea because it's going to be a huge sticker shock, council does not have that same deference on any of these issues. Council has been warned for 2 years about this fiscal debt that it has to go, and it's been difficult to have that conversation. But let's go back. We're in a different council, 90 days in. It is a little different, and of course, we also have the 5th city manager in that time, and I
That
think that's
swing vote
Not
is
in 90 days, but.
not in 90 days, but over the past 4 years or so.
Yes.
And I think that's, so I think that's a very good question, but it's a tale of two communities. And I think that,
There's different
fierce pressure on counselors to raise.
So, Neil,
The
is
rates.
Albemarle County close to full staff?
Albemarle County is not close to full staff. I believe it was 20% down. They're usually at about 10%.
In what
below.
department, though?
Across all.
It's across the board versus the city of Charlottesville.
The city of Charlottesville is further down than that. And quite honestly, there is always a revolving door
Yeah.
in government because it's a great stepping stone for many people.
Sure.
And I have a whole lot of respect for the folks that stay and that have made public policy their career.
Because they care.
They do care, but they also bring institutional knowledge.
exactly.
So when we lose someone, or someone is approaching the silver tsunami, which is all the retirements, it does carry a loss of institutional understanding.
So institutional memory is a huge thing. It always amazes me. As you well know, Louise and Flavana are finally moving forward with the water, and actually had a phone call from a couple of board of supervisors over there. Hey, do you remember what happened 20 years ago? When they're reaching out to folks like us for institutional memory, that's not a good thing, right? They should be reaching out to somebody who's been there for 20 years that can do that. But that's a rare thing in local politics.
So here's a good question on these topics here for everybody. Why don't we go with what Neil said earlier in the show? Stacy, thank you for this comment here. Neil mentioned we talk spending, but we don't talk cuts. What potential cuts could there be in the city budget? So let's remember that topic. She also adds, Jerry, you mentioned earlier in the show about the city manager, earlier in the week I did, about the city manager and how we're getting closer and closer to an election.
Yeah.
And whether that city manager is going to get hired close to this election, and as I called it, a lame duck city manager, or will they actually hire the city manager and give him time before the next election? So first, why don't we go Neil Williamson on the tax, on cutting spending.
I will do what I normally do when I talk about taxes and spending and defer, and say that any organization of the size of most of the localities around us has areas where they can save money. That's true whether you're commercial, nonprofit, or government agency.
Well-
That being said, I also think that it's only fair to say that there are folks that are working diligently to keep the spending in control. That is a double-edged sword. Sean, I don't know how you would feel about that.
The double-edged sword, I want to stay away from that. I don't
He
want
prefers a lightsaber.
I think it's just, again, I think that it goes back to what somebody, I said earlier about, this stuff is really, government is different. It's not a business. But understanding what's in that budget, so different people could maybe make suggestions. We don't really have a lot of people, we don't have the same kind of budget hawks that we did 15 years ago when I was starting off covering this beat. A lot of those folks have moved away. There used to be a group called, what was it called? Albemarle the taxation one.
ADA.
ADA, yeah.
Pizza and beer.
There used to be a fierce group in the city of Charlottesville who was the same way. For whatever reason,
The only budget hawks that are now are budget hawks on the CPD. That's the only budget hawks I'm seeing.
And I think, and I think that there's so much that gets discussed at these. There was so much more I wanted to write out from that community budget forum from Wednesday, because the Zoom era has meant longer conversations about a lot of these topics. And there's a lot of stuff that just doesn't make it into a story, which I think is, because I think with the police issue, there's a lot of back and forth on that conversation. A lot of numbers about apples and oranges and what numbers get picked out. I think that anybody who wants to suggest areas to cut, again, you also have a lot of demand for a lot of services in a growing community that what's our growth rate here over the last 10 years?
1.8.
Over the last 10 years?
So,
Thereabouts.
gentlemen,
Per year. Yeah, no, I meant the cumulative. But yeah, you're correct. And I think that means there's more people who move here. He's always correct. I'm never correct. Never.
that's not
Oh,
true,
gosh.
and you know that.
No, it's true.
Whenever
But I'm not
I'm
correct
asked,
on being true either.
whenever I'm asked about this particular question, I've always referred back to, let's talk about your personal home budget, right? And really, at the end of the day, if you look at it the same way, it's the same thing for the government. But I'm pretty sure everybody at this table is at the kitchen tables with their family or their dog or whoever they have important in life. We're double gas where we were this time last year. Inflation is not transitory. I don't care what the hell anybody says. We are in an inflationary area. And I don't know about you gentlemen, but at my kitchen table, we're looking at where we can cut spending, right? We're already there. We're figuring out what's coming off the table, the discretionary dollars.
And to be clear, when we entered into this COVID era, Albemarle froze hiring.
Yep.
And quite honestly, I spoke up halfway through, and it was having an impact on how quickly applications were getting processed and permits were being issued. That's a real thing. And the challenge is, especially in community development in Albemarle, that's a cash cow. The more applications you process, the more money you generate. So I think it's important to recognize that some of those spendings generate revenue, even on the government side. Now, to the citizen expectation side, I will say, I'm reminded of there was a teacher conference my wife went to, and they were trying to instill this corporate vision of business-like, and there was a blueberry jam producer, and they made the best blueberry jam ever. And they said, what do you do with the bad blueberries? He says, we don't take them. So that's my point. Schools take all the kids. So I think it's an important element to how that works.
I need a chart for that one.
It's important to acknowledge a very important viewer of today's program, the esteemed and very kind and benevolent Wendy Williamson, watching the program.
Oh dear,
as we speak.
and I quoted her.
Wendy Williamson, hello. You are very much appreciated here. How about the city manager talk? Keith and I talked about this on Tuesday. Do we expect a city manager anytime soon? Do we expect is it the Robert Bob Group? Is that the consultant, the group?
Yes.
Do we expect Michael Rogers of the Robert Bob Group to be extended? What are your thoughts on this?
Not speculating. I would just say, let's get out of this budget first.
Yeah.
Well, he's going to have to be extended.
He's got 3 months left.
He's got to have to be
I
extended.
mean,
Yeah.
it's likely, very
It's gotta
likely
have to
that
be
the process will.
This is a non.
It is very likely that contract will be extended.
through the end of the year.
Maybe not through the end of the
So
year.
you'll say maybe a 3-month extension?
I would not be surprised to see some on council wanting to move swiftly to a permanent city manager.
Yeah.
And wanting to see what's the schedule, what's our hiring plan. The initial discussion.
Mayor
was
Snook has said
April.
that's his priority.
And they'll get this consultant to
They'll
head
extend
this.
the consultant at least another 3 months.
I would assume.
And I would not be surprised to see a new city manager prior to Thanksgiving
Wow.
Of this year.
of
Wow.
this year.
Wow.
Oh, that's
I mean, because the concern we have is, and we talked about this on Tuesday, if this job search gets into 2023, then the discussion's going to be, we need to wait till the next council comes on board to hire him, or her, him or her.
That's
Yeah.
a bold prediction.
Yeah, that is a very bold
You're
prediction.
saying, wow.
I see the wheels turning on a double or nothing bet
I
over
know.
there. With Keith Sitt. That's what he's doing right there.
You don't know I'm a lefty. I've been sitting across
But
you
I can read your mind.
Been writing across you for over 3 years in our 4th year. Didn't know I was a lefty. It's okay, but you can read my mind.
I can read your mind. You were thinking double or nothing, weren't you?
Which means it's probably not a really long and lengthy read, but that's besides
That's
the
not true.
That's besides,
That's not true.
That's besides the
That's
point.
a ballsy prediction right
yeah,
there.
man. That is, yeah. Yeah, wow.
Sean, anything on that?
Let's get out of budget session first.
Anybody get eyes on his contract? Anybody seen that? Is that a public document?
Again,
There's public documents with regard to the total expenditure for the Robert
But
Bibb
not
Group,
the
but not
actual-
the actual contract
Yeah.
with the individual, because that's a personnel matter.
Got it. Well,
How
it's
much
not
are
a
they
per-
paying
but
the
it's
Robert
not,
Bob
But it's
Group?
not a personnel though. It's an. I don't know about that.
That was what I've been told.
But it's-
They are
but it's-
contracting with Robert Bob Group. They are not contracting with the individual. The
Yeah.
individual-
So that's not.
That's true.
That's not a. But that's
Robert
not.
Bob Group is paying Michael Rogers.
Yes.
I understand
City's
that.
paying Robert
but
Bob Group.
I'm not going to go down this road, but that's not an employee.
No.
They're hiring.
Robert Bob Group.
They're
is-
hiring the
yeah.
I Love Charlottesville
Right.
network to have Judah work for the city. That contract with I Love Charlottesville should be a public
That
document.
is a public
Can I see
document.
Judah's
It's the contract
credentials for
with
that?
Judah
Got
between
it.
I Love Seville.
Got it.
Which, by the way, Judah would be a great employee.
You
Yeah.
got it.
It is
gotta
it is
talk about
clear.
Well, I think Judah should rule the world, but that's a whole different story.
Do we know
And
how
he
much?
didn't, he didn't disagree with that.
This is public record, and we could figure this out. Do you guys know off the top of your head how much the Robert Bob Group is being paid?
I don't. I think I have a number in my head, but I don't want to say it out loud.
So
without
the
looking at
reason
it.
I was going that route, I bet you in that consultant contract, there's some sort of automatic extension. So if there was not amended by some period of time,
So this
I
did,
would think.
this did come up the other day at one of the meetings. I believe it was, because you're starting to move into the 3-month mark, and of course that conversation is going to come up. But for the next, right now, all my
3-month
brain,
mark starts in 6 days.
all my brain can think about is where will we be on April 16th? I think is the date for the budget adoption. I could be wrong on the exact date, but that's less than a month away, and that's a lot of conversation that I can't even put that speculation.
So the
in my
reason I
brain
think
yet.
this is an automatic bunt, some of these other, or at least for 3 months, if I think it's going to be for 6 months, but some of these bodies and organizations I sit on, which is not as large as that, it takes us 3 months just to review the existing contract and the existing executive directors are at. So it's just I just don't see that moving that rapidly.
Who knows?
Yeah,
We will.
I don't
You
see
know what? You know what you can do is to keep paying attention to Charlottesville community engagement and
Or
information
Real
in
Talk,
Charlottesville
because I am
for
not-
the.
You need one brand, Sean.
No, I've got one brand. Town Crier Productions. That's
So
the brand.
I'm going to say this in front of how many
do a great
people
job.
It's two
and
different
everybody.
platforms.
Do yourself a favor. Hire this man and have him brand you. Please hire him.
Sean's doing a hell of a job. He's
Yeah,
doing a hell of a job. John McLaren giving you some props right now. Dan Pettit, Mustache Dan Pettit, hello. Liz Sarami says, Rick Springfield was not a topic I expected here this morning. His live show would do great in this town, though. Dan, you knew this question was going to be asked. Mustache Dan Pettit, what question do you think it is?
It's not FSM, is it?
It is FSM. It's FSM.
But it's not the first time I've been asked this
Ask
week.
Neil if he heard around 18 places are moving into Fashion Square Mall in the near future.
That rumor I have heard, but I've also heard other rumors. Sean and I and Allison have a running bet. What
jeepers.
day will it be of the week that we get our first FSM question?
So today was Friday.
No, today was Wednesday. This week it was Wednesday.
Oh, it was Wednesday.
I had someone call me who was looking at. They had a client looking at a property in Glenwood Station. They said, "What's going to happen with the mall?"
So
I was
for
like,
the-
"That's an easy question to answer."
Nothing. I don't know. So for those who are listening and watching or not from our area, please explain what
Fashion
River Brick-
Square Mall is a classic enclosed shopping mall that used to have 4 or 5 anchor stores, of which there is one remaining, Belk, for an anchor store. It has had significant tenant turnover and continues to operate as a commercial entity, but has been downgraded by its ownership to be a parcel that they would consider letting go of.
A portion was purchased at auction
Yes.
for what, 22 and a half, 23, 24 million?
Roughly.
Memory serves correct. Watched that auction on the courthouse steps.
Yep.
It was dynamite.
Yep.
So
But it's
very,
not the whole project.
Not the whole project.
That's important to note out.
Very much in limbo right now.
Yeah.
We
Right,
can say.
And when we talk about the Rio corridor, that is often a discussion, what will happen. And
As it should be.
New development is happening right in front of Fashion Square Mall on 29. A Sleep Number bed store is coming out of the ground in front of what is now Truist Bank. And that store is significant investment, frankly. And it's interesting that that's happening there, and how the balance of the properties will develop is part of the idea around the Rio 29 small area plan.
Let's
So-
give some love to a friend of the program, all four of us, Roger Voisinet.
Hey, Roger.
Very much enjoying the show right now.
I bumped
Roger-
into him the other day. He's always a treat to bump
he's
into.
all right.
So funny. Roger, if you're just listening and streaming in your Tesla, Roger just gave you the salute right
Wait,
there. Or
yeah.
Sean gave you the salute
Where
right
did
there.
Roger come up the other day? Yeah, he had a, oh yeah, good old Roger. He came up in yesterday's, well, that's a whole thing I haven't written about yet, so.
Was it Woolen
No, it didn't
Mills?
happen.
Yeah, that's the one. That's
It
the
was
one.
Woolen Mills and
It doesn't
likely
exist.
the bridge.
The bridge,
Yeah, the bridge.
pedestrian bridge.
No,
Pedestrian
I need
bridge.
another 10 hours in the day.
Okay, so do we want to talk at all about that? Market Street connection with Pantops and Rivanna Bridge. Peter Krebs has come on the show and championed that.
And the logic of why it's Market Street versus the other location, which was in
Oh, yeah. Well, the economic development angle.
economic development piece. You've got to understand Smart Scale, which is
Oh, yeah.
the methodology the Virginia Department of Transportation uses to judge projects and supposedly allocate funding, is focused on a number of areas, including traffic mitigation, safety, and economic development. I'm probably missing one or two. But the bottom line is that by connecting at Market Street, it's much more tied to the areas that Albemarle County has already dedicated infrastructure spending and have economic development opportunity.
Yeah.
So that's leveraging those funds to provide access, multimodal access, to those economic development opportunities.
Very well said.
It's also
Do you
a,
agree with that, Sean?
Yeah, and there was a 4-1 vote, which was really interesting. I haven't written it up yet. I paid attention to it, but I thought it was important to prioritize the
so
city
Woolen
council
Mills
stuff.
is not in the city, right?
Woolen Mills is in the county.
In the
But
county.
I do
okay.
have two stories about this, about the Broadway blueprint area. Yes, about the area that you're talking about, Keith. It's about 46 acres in the county that's landlocked, but of course, this bridge would open up access, direct access from Albemarle to Albemarle.
But it's a
Which,
pedestrian bicycle
pedestrian
bridge.
and bike
Yeah.
access.
I think it's fantastic. It's fantastic.
And, that'll get scored. The exact details still need to be worked out for the cost. Is it going to be a truss bridge or a chain-supported bridge? I don't know if they
They were speaking about
Yeah.
whether or not you wanted the Maserati or the old boot.
Yeah, but I think as
Lloyd
Supervisor...
Snook's comment, old boot.
But as Supervisor Ann Malik said, it's like, we just want a project there. So, and it will open. Keep in mind, this has been talked about for ages.
Decades.
That could open up a whole lot of connections between two areas that look so close but are yet so far away.
Right, and you've got to think about some of the linkages that are down there that are almost already thinking about this. When you look at things like Decipher Brewing, those are in kind of rough areas right now, but you could see those developing in a way
hotspot.
that could really
So that
boom.
pedestrian
Yeah.
bridge, you talked a little earlier about metro hubs and so forth and so on, that pedestrian bike bridge will have the same effect as that. And as you just mentioned, some of those areas might grow a little bit. There's other reason why it's looking at it that way too. It's also from a physical perspective, very practical
Right,
location
and-
to do
and-
that.
And lower cost. And I firmly believe that in 8 years, we will see Keith Smith on his electric bike going over the top of that bridge.
I noticed a hat picture on your Facebook today. A gift from your daughter from a Goodwill store.
Yeah,
Is that not what I noticed?
That was as my daughter who came in from Seattle last night. Daddy, I did a very Seattle thing for you. I bought a Rad Bikes, which is an electric bike, at a thrift store. But, yeah, so.
Before we leave that, the discussion of this bridge, keep in mind that the economic development opportunities go the other way. From where that bridge would land would be State Farm, the former State Farm, which is being divided into different sections. Bonumos is a company that the economic development
It's a
department
sweet company.
landed there. Not
Dun-dun-dun.
artificial sweeteners. I got yelled at for calling them that, but I didn't have another way to describe it. And I think that's the idea. So, I think that it will change people's conceptions of that whole area if you can simply cross the bridge without having to go to the two bridges now, which is Free Bridge and I-64. And, I don't recommend crossing the I-64
Yeah,
bridge
plain
on
Frogger
foot.
there, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
The real estate values around those areas are going to go through the roof. They're going to boom.
Well, and they talked about that, and I think one of the things with the equity plan at the Economic Development Authority earlier this month, they did talk about those issues, and the question, and some of
What,
those-
assessments?
well, one of the things that was discussed was how should the county maybe buy some of the office space there or some of the land so they can subsidize rents. That's another plan, the Broadway Blueprint Plan, which the final study is out. It has been looked at through an equity lens, which basically said something I have recommended for a long time, which is work with the city on this. And I think there is where, we're getting kind of late in the show to talk about city and county working together.
The
but-
linkage between the city and county, this would provide great linkage and great connectivity for city residents into the county and for county residents into the city.
It's great
And it's
for
another-
both jurisdictions.
Well, it's another example of change and how change is hard because the people who live on East Market Street, such as the person, Roger, are not necessarily
Mr.
so
Woolen
happy
Mills,
about this
Roger.
because it is potential change, and potential change is scary.
And the other thing to recognize is this project came out of the MPO, the Charlottesville Albemarle MPO. Why is that important?
Let's
The
call-
Metropolitan
let's defi-
Planning Organization. The Metropolitan Planning Organization is a mandated organization by federal government, and this means that the city or the county didn't have to prioritize this bridge that benefits both over one of the other projects that benefits just their citizens.
Well said.
But I would not be surprised if you see Albemarle County putting money directly into this. It is a possibility. Doesn't have to be the full amount, but one thing about Smart Scale, if you put in your own money, your scores go up because that's the whole point is to get that. Now, Albemarle County does set aside money towards its transportation leveraging fund and has made the commitment to continue to do that. That's where they're putting a lot of their surpluses. It's a question of budgeting and how these things work. And
And the rationale behind that, just so that viewers understand, is that for every $1 or $2 the state puts in, the locality will put in $1. So it leverages those funds and makes those funds buy more. You get more bang for the buck.
Yeah. Now, the county hasn't said they were going to do that because they do have there's 89 transportation priorities in Albemarle. I don't believe this is on the county's list. But, these are iterative things. And of
When we
course,
started the show talking about it, that's when you got to start looking at the budget and start looking at the conversations and find out. You just mentioned Ann Malik was very much in favor of this, and it depends on how the rest of the conversation goes. April, we're going to start digging into every year. Jerry and I start taking over these NARs, discussing these NARs, buyer and sellers. I just want to get this stat out today, generational report. Millennials made up 43% of all the buying in the United States last year. That's up 6% year over year. We're going to start taking a harder look at this stuff going across the line. And a lot of it is going to be talking about where they're buying versus 18 and 19. So some interesting stuff I'm going to bring.
Where and what they're buying.
Where and what they're buying. Yeah, where and what they're buying. And it's kind of counterintuitive to what you think it's going to be.
Anything you want to add?
2 plus 2,
4.
2 plus 2 is 4.
I'm satisfied.
Dude, my favorite shows are these, and I love you guys. Respect what you guys do. You guys both grind. You both are huge assets to this community. I hope you hear that often. And
I hear a lot
please-
about that. I get that first syllable a lot.
What's that?
Yes. And I think that I hear that first syllable
Oh,
from
this is
time
a
to time
huge-
as well.
Look,
Guys, please support and donate and support and read and share and follow Free Enterprise Forum, Town Crier Productions,
Infocville.com.
Community
FreeEnterpriseForum.org.
Engagement Letter, newsletter.
The infocville.com. everybody will find it from there.
Infocville.com. You do seriously, hell of a job, both of you
Please,
guys.
please, folks, please
I know.
sign up. Please donate whatever you can donate.
Contribute.
Contribute.
Not a nonprofit. He's a nonprofit. I'm for profit.
Is it
Got
going
it.
well?
Yeah, great.
Good.
Really good. Yeah, fantastic, actually.
Kick a little bit of money this way, whatever you can do, it'll be greatly apprecited. It really
Did he-
goes.
Wait, I have to pay
Did
you?
he mean to Keith or to?
Yeah. I'm
you mean-
confused. I mean, am I
3%.
paying you?
Kick a little money away.
I don't do it 10% anymore. It's just 3%. I'm not a-
Bravo, absolutely bravo here. No, Sean, don't empty that wallet. Okay, we get what you're saying.
Sean,
Do you see
have-
the flies
we
flying
understand
out?
what you're
Sure,
saying.
you mentioned your organization a little too much. You're getting an invoice. today.
No. Sean's done incredible work. Guys, seriously, I love you guys. Seriously, I sincerely.
I love Seville.
When was the last time
No, I
that we did
genuinely
one?
respect
It's
what
been a
you're
while,
doing.
right?
Thank you.
Been a while.
It's been a while.
I think last time I made some sort of Williamsburg reference.
We did. We didn't get one today. We didn't
Was
get
it
one today.
pre-election? I think it was, or was it just, no, it was post-election.
It
I
was
think we did this-
post-election.
yeah.
It was
Like
right after
January, I
the
think.
election.
I don't think I've done one this year. I don't think so.
Yeah. So, but we'll slot them back on a
Please.
regular occurrence. This is
It's
a lot of fun.
I have such a fun time.
I
doing
did get
this.
up at 3 o'clock this morning so I could finish
Oh.
a newsletter to get here. But not for that reason. I really did want to make sure I was informed so that I wasn't just making it up.
Well, I thought you did a great job.
Well, thank you.
What time did you wake up this morning, Sean?
It's at 3 a.m.
Actually,
No one cares.
Technically 2. No, I went to bed at 8. I mean, this is what I've been able to do. I redesigned my life to do this full time, and it's and yeah.
Well-
but I did want to make sure I gave information that wasn't bad.
Well,
So Neil,
you did well.
Neil and Sean, thank you guys. It's. I was telling Jerry the other day, I can't believe we came up with this idea over 3 years ago, and we're into our
And-
4th year.
Any questions I should ask three-term city councilor Lee Vogler? I trust you guys very much. Obviously, I'm gonna
Wednesday
bring
on
up-
at 12:30.
Yeah, I'm going to bring up the DORA. Obviously, you mentioned one, the sales tax referendum.
Well, no, I mean that's old news. I think that the news there really is with the casinos and coming in.
Okay.
How are they preparing for success? In other words, what are they doing now to make sure that they don't have the problems that come with a place where people want to be, which is increasing property rights, not property rights, increasing property values, et cetera, et cetera. How are they preparing for the success that I believe is certainly coming Danville's way?
Okay, that's a good one. I will ask him that. Anything, Neil, that you can think of?
I think.
I literally will credit you guys with these
I
questions.
think the bigger questions are the ones that Sean's raising with regard to increased property values, which is, increased value and wealth in your community, and keeping up with the infrastructure, and where are the workers coming from?
Okay, where are workers? All right. These guys are helping us. All right, so Keith, well, great show.
Thank you. It's always awesome. This is pretty easy for me. I just need to fall off the horse and show up and participate and strap in, because usually that's what happens here. So thank you guys.
It was a
lot of
blast.
fun.
Thank
It's a
you.
pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Judah Wickower, thank you. For Keith, Neil, Sean, I'm Jerry, and this is Real Talk presented by the Yes Realty Partners. We are back in 37 minutes, guys, with Lee Vogler of Danville City Council on the program. And Sean has a mask? Or is he sweat?
He's being a pirate.
pirate.
Yeah, pirate.
He's a pirate.
Look at the screen. He's being a pirate. Hasta luego, guys. Thank you for joining us. Take care.
It was fun.
I was hoping that was actually going to hold on to something.
So it was funny. When we